Well, good morning. In the in the many months that we have been discussing and practicing with the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha's teaching on the mindfulness of breathing in and out, there is a virtually uncountable number of times that I've said the foundation of all of this is mindfulness. And so during the course of this past week, I pulled out the book I have on the Satipatthana Sutta, which is the mindfulness of the four foundations of our practice. And the four foundations are being mindful of what is being experienced as a body, being mindful of the arising of feeling tone, which is to say not feelings like sadness or joy, but more just noticing each sense contact as either pleasant or unpleasant, or neither pleasant or unpleasant. That's what the definition of feelings would be. And so that's the second foundation. You have the body to be mindful of. You have the arising of pleasant or unpleasant to be mindful of. The third foundation is basically the state of the mind. Not the content, not what you're thinking, but qualities like whether the mind is focused or fragmented. Whether it's, filled with desire or desire is absent. There are a number, maybe a dozen or so, that the Buddha mentions specifically in paying attention to the state of the mind. And then the fourth foundation is what we've been talking about, or I've been talking about, as various sets of factors to be mindful of. So a set of factors might be the awakening factors, or they might be the hindrances. They might be the sense bases. A sense base, as opposed to just saying a sense, indicates that for the sense of sight, for example, to be functioning, there needs to be the eye, the organ of the eye. There needs to be something to see, a sense object, and there needs to be a medium. How does in this case, photons bounce off whatever form it is that you're looking at and enter the eye? There needs to be a medium. If it was sound, it needs to be something like air vibrating from the sound that's being made to the ear. So you have the sense organ, you have what it is that's being sensed, you have the medium, and then you have to have consciousness. You have to know that hearing is happening or it's not. The example I love to use is, I'm sitting reading a book. I am so absorbed in the book, somebody walks in the room and says my name, says, Brian, and I literally don't hear it. And there is the initial making the sound, there is the vibration moving through the air. It does hit my ear, it does go up into my perceptual system, but I don't know it. I'm not conscious of it. So I don't hear it until the person yells. And then I get startled and hearing consciousness comes back. So the senses are incredibly important to being mindful. Without the senses, you wouldn't know thinking was occurring. In fact, there are many times during a normal day when you're engaged in doing something physically, let's say, and it's demanding and it's really absorbing all your attention. And at that moment, you're not conscious of what thoughts are going through, are impinging on the sense organ that is aware of thinking. So you don't know thoughts. You might not know, this experience of the temperature in the room on your skin because you're absorbed in the task you're doing. Doesn't mean there isn't a temperature on your skin. It's just you don't know it. So this quality of being conscious is essential for being able to sense anything. In other words, to be able to be mindful, one has to be conscious. The concept of practice is the work of intentionally directing our consciousness to some object of focus, often the breath. We are not sitting, just quietly relaxing and letting whatever happens happen. That's not practice. That's just sitting and letting whatever happens happen, which is a fine thing to do. But in practice, we are conscious of what's occurring in experience. If we're doing a concentration practice, our focus is on an intentional object of focus, such as the breath. In the Anapanasati practice, we focus on knowing when the in-breath is occurring and knowing when the out-breath is occurring as our anchor in the swirl of experience. The arising of thought and sound and sensation and feeling, all of this occurs, and we're conscious of it. But we don't lose focus on the breath. That's the teaching that the Buddha offers in the Anapanasati practice. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha is describing the many ways in which we can use these four foundations, the foundations of the body, of feeling arising at the sense doors, of the state of the mind, and of these various sets of factors. One of the sets of factors is, in fact, the sense spheres. That's the one we've been working with primarily for this last year and a half. So the Buddha, in the Satipatthana Sutta, uses a phrase to go along with each of these four foundations. So in the text it says, in regard to the body, one abides contemplating the body, diligent, clear knowing, and mindful, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. In regard to feelings, one abides contemplating feelings, diligent, clear knowing, and mindful, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. In regard to the mind, one abides contemplating the mind, diligent, clear knowing, and mindful, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. In regarding sets of factors, one abides contemplating each set, diligent, clear knowing, and mindful, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. Diligent, clear knowing, and mindful. They're not that complicated. Diligent is simply sticking to it. When you're practicing and you're focusing on breathing in, you're focusing on breathing out, and a thought comes up. Oh yeah, tomorrow is that getting together with someone, or that thing I need to write, or that project I need to continue, and this quiet place, this sort of more steady place that you've created with your practice, seems like a lovely place to ruminate about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's very tempting, seductive, diligent. We say no thank you. Another time, after the sit, I'd be happy to do that. During the sit, I have a practice. I am developing a particular set of skills based on mindfulness. One of the skills is the ability to sustain my intention. I have an intention. My intention is to focus on breathing in. My intention is to focus on breathing out. This seductive thought arises, and I'm very tempted to let go of my intention. But instead of letting go of my intention, I remember this word diligent. Diligent, the Buddha repeats it over and over again. Diligent. I'm going to stay with my intention. The ability to sustain a focus on your own intention is a powerful part of generating agency for ourselves, for being in the world doing as we need to do, rather than getting blown around by the wind. How do you train yourself to sustain your intentions when you set them? You train yourself by having a practice and by being diligent. Clear knowing. Clear knowing. I guess we need to define unclear knowing. We've defined knowing. Knowing is being conscious of, being aware of, attending your mindfulness to whatever is arising in your experience right now. That's knowing. Clear knowing is not fuzzing it up, blurring it with thoughts and distractions. And, well, what about this? And, maybe this would be more useful than what I'm doing now. Clear knowing is sustaining your attention on the object that you have chosen to stay with. The object doesn't have to be the same all the time. There is an open awareness practice where you focus your attention on the flow of arising and passing away of various phenomena that arise in experience. Clear knowing is staying conscious of what is arisen without getting lost. In a sense, it's another form of concentration. You're just moving the knowing from one object to the next, to the next, to the next, as they arise, but sustaining the attention on knowing. Diligent, clear knowing, and mindful. Diligent, clear knowing, and mindful. These are the instructions of practicing. What interrupts practice? Desires and discontent in regard to the world. I could never in a single day catalog all the desires and discontent around the world that arises in my experience. There isn't enough time in a day to catalog what arises in a day. It's too fast. It's too constant. How much I like the way something is. How much I wish it was different. Over and over and over again. Could be the temperature. Could be the lighting. Could be a complex construction of what's going on somewhere else in the world that I only know about through, someone else's reporting. The practice of mindfulness, the Buddha says, one abides contemplating the foundation of mindfulness, free from the desires and discontent in regard to the world. It doesn't mean they're not going to arise. It means that we don't get involved. We don't cling. We don't move in that direction. We sustain our intention. We are diligent. Diligent is simply sustaining our intention to be mindful in the face of the arising of desire and discontent. Breathing in. You know that you're breathing in. Clear knowing, free from desire and discontent in regard to the world. This is not easy to do. This is why we call it practice. This is why the Buddha says in the Anapanasati Sutta, you train yourself. This is why the Buddha discusses in that sutta the development of attainment, the extending of reach, the increasing depth of realization that we are developing through this training, through this practice of mindfulness. So let's try this. Let's try being mindful, just of watching the in-breath, being conscious of the out-breath, knowing when thoughts and sounds and feelings arise, but being diligent and sustaining our attention on the breath so that we develop the skill of being able to sustain our intentions. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I am breathing out.